the last variable is how big is the gift going to be that the patron uses to cement that relationship. Should also mention that giving gifts is a way of increasing your prestige. You know, philanthropy wouldn't work if that wasn't the case. You give the big gift, your status increases. You receive the gift, it increases too, but probably not as much as the person who gives. It is better to give than to receive. And I would set this model running. And I would let the model, it would start with all three sliders over here and run, and it keep sliding the other one to the left, then the next one, and then the next one. So basically it's exploring a three-dimensional space of a possible world. Okay, from a world where everything is easy to a world where everything is hard. And then I played God. Because I wanted to know where the sources of robustness were, I had to start killing my digital Romans. So I had a great big red button over here, and I called it Smite. And the idea was, can I upset the apple cart? Can I cause this society to collapse by randomly killing Romans at particular junctions? So I'd sit there and I'd watch my little Romans move, and I didn't get out very much those couple of weeks. But I'd sit there and I'd watch them move, and I'd hit the smite button and see if some died and what would happen. And then you'd hit it again. And then you'd hit it a whole bunch of times to see what would happen. I was a vengeful god. And clearly that isn't useful because it wasn't rigorous in any given shape or form. It was just, it was a literal deus ex machina. So I went back to the drawing board and I thought, well, what could possibly, why does violence emerge in Roman society? And I read the literature and I started thinking, well, maybe it really comes down to not getting into the right chain of patronage, not getting access, being the guy who never gets in the jock's circle. Okay? So I gave the agents the ability to hold a grudge. They keep a list of any agent that didn't let them join their circle. And if that grudge got high enough, well, then that agent was ready to kill somebody. But Roman society wasn't a society. Let me rephrase that. Again, it's not useful to model individual killers if I'm trying to understand the robustness of Roman society. I was interested more in mob violence, in spontaneous upsurges of violence on a large scale. So you remember I mentioned that running the model, I'm exploring this particular geography of different external environments, the economic environment. I'm also measuring for each time I make another run of the model. Well, how many people have actually died? What was the ability, on average, for the patrons to keep a lid on violence? And just how many individuals were ready to go violent if I'll do it if you do it. No, you go first, man. No, I'll do it. If they're ready to do that. And it ends up being a 9-dimensional space, which it was really kind of hard to get your head around or get Microsoft Excel to graph it in anything approaching a digestible format. But this was as close as I came. On this end of the graph, this is sunshine and roses. This is the easiest economic environment going. This one over here is the hardest, most abysmal, apocalyptic environment that the model can imagine. These white spaces here in the foreground are runs where violence occurred. People died. It's impossible to talk about agent-based models and keep the anthropomorphizing out of it. You end up talking about he and she, and it's never a case of it did this. So, if you'll indulge me, this is where a whole bunch of patrons and clients got snuffed. So, that makes sense. You would expect to see a whole bunch of deaths in the worst possible environment. This makes sense. It's sunshine and roses. Even if patrons aren't accepting people into their train, it doesn't matter because the economic environment is still so good, life goes on. So what becomes interesting are these places here in the middle. And it becomes interesting too because some of these economic conditions do match roughly what was happening in the Roman world. This one and this one are particularly interesting. There's a wave of killing happening here and here, but it's a really easy environment. Why is that happening? And as I crunched the numbers and I looked at it, it seems that the crucial the crucial factor is in fact the size of gifts being given. In this run and in this run, this is when the size of gifts is just off the chart. Okay, that's the run when the user setting says, yes, you're now in my train and I'm not giving you a new car, I'm giving you Nova Scotia. You know, like it's a ridiculously sized. I exaggerate for effect.